Chapter 141. Junior Sister. The woman's attack was too sudden and Yu Wenma couldn't stop her in time. Seeing the pitch-black crow bone whip approaching, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with a cold blood-red light. With her eyesight, she was naturally able to tell that the crow bone whip was covered in a strange and intense pain. If an ordinary person touched it, their entire body would fester as long as they were wounded. This woman was vicious. Junior sister? This was the junior sister that Yu Wenma had asked her to save using her identity as the demonic doctor? He said that there was a problem with her meridians. In his opinion, she was doing quite well right now. Luo Qingtong sneered and her eyes flashed with a blood-red light. In the next second she didn't dodge or evade. Instead she raised her hand and grabbed at the incoming crow bone whip. Miss. You can't. Seeing Luo Qingtong's hand reaching for the whip, Yu Wenma, who knew his junior sister's temperament, panicked and immediately shouted. The yellow-robed woman's face was filled with joy. But when she heard Yu Wenma's shout, her face sank. Her eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness. She raised her hand and the crow bone whip whipped towards Luo Qingtong's face at a crafty angle. I'll pull off this slut's veil and leave a mark on her face. Let's see how she can use this face to seduce others. The yellow-robed woman thought hatefully. Sensing the change in the whip's angle, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and her expression became even colder. There was a path to heaven but you didn't take it. There was no door to hell but you barged in. Since she wanted to disfigure others, then she would let her have a good taste of it. Pa. Luo Qingtong didn't move, but her palm flipped along with the changing angle of the long whip, accurately grabbing the tip of the long whip. Her opponent's whip technique, which he thought was ever-changing, was completely unfathomable before her eye technique. What a vicious heart. I'll return this poison to you. Shua. With a cold snort, Luo Qingtong's palm fiercely stroked the tip of the whip. In an instant the long whip was like a dragon, and it was pulled into a line under her hand. At the same time, Luo Qingtong instantly added and deleted the poisonous aura. With a swoosh she suddenly raised her hand, and this long whip was like a rebounding snake. In an instant, with a speed even faster than before and an even more tricky angle, it suddenly attacked back. The woman in yellow was completely caught off guard. She screamed and covered her face. The whip suddenly bounced back and viciously lashed her face, leaving a wound so deep that her bones could be seen. How dare you hurt me? The yellow-clothed woman felt a sharp pain on her face. She lifted her hand and touched the blood on her face. She was on the verge of collapse. Her face. Junior sister. Seeing the yellow-clothed woman injured, the faces of Yu Wenma and the others changed. This junior sister was their teacher's only beloved daughter. They had to take good care of her for sneaking out. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences if their teacher questioned them. Junior sister, are you all right? They all surrounded her. At this moment, the yellow-clothed woman suddenly screamed. My face. It's so itchy. It hurts. As she spoke, she desperately scratched her face. Yu Wenma and the others heard this and looked at her face. With a single glance, they all sucked in a breath. Junior sister. Chapter 142. The wound on the yellow-robed woman's face was rapidly festering. The wound was festering at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, the skin near the wound had completely festered. In an instant, the delicate and beautiful junior sister had turned into a demon. Not only that, the festering flesh near the wound was constantly wriggling as if something was growing. In a short while, a mournful and strange face was struggling to break out of the wound, silently roaring near the wound. Yu Wenma and the others felt a chill run down their spines when they saw this ghostly scene. Junior sister. What poison did you smear on your whip? Quickly take out the antidote and consume it. Yu Wenma anxiously called out to her. The yellow-robed woman scratched her face with all her might, until the festering flesh was badly mutilated and pus and blood flowed out, but it didn't relieve the itch at all. Through everyone's gazes, she discovered that an extremely frightening change had occurred on her face and immediately began to cry. I didn't. I smeared bone-rotting poison on it. It won't itch. It's her. It must be her. It's this woman. She did something to my whip. As the yellow-robed woman spoke, she raised her hand and pointed at Luo Qingtong, who was wiping her fingers and preparing to leave. Seeing her finger pointing at her, the latter immediately raised her eyebrows and generously admitted it. That's right, I did it. So what? Giving her a taste of her own medicine, I don't think I did anything wrong. Moreover, the raw material of the poison was the bone-rotting poison that you smeared on it. Luo Qingtong spoke until here and lightly laughed. You should be glad that the bone-rotting poison isn't strong enough. And I don't have enough materials on hand, otherwise you would be in an even worse state. What did you say? You bitch. The yellow-robed woman was flustered by Luo Qingtong's words. Then she faced the crowd of the holy court and cried. Senior brother, look, she admitted it. He poisoned me. She wanted to harm me. Why aren't you all taking revenge for me? While you're at it, take back the 1,000-year tree heart. Junior sister. Yuan Ma berated her, then looked at Luo Qingtong. Miss, it was indeed my junior sister who acted rashly this time. Please don't blame her. We don't want the 1,000-year tree heart anymore. Please help us cure the poison on my junior sister's face. Ha! Luo Qingtong chuckled. The 1,000-year tree heart is mine to begin with. What do you mean you don't want it? As for the poison on her face, it was her own doing. I don't have the antidote. Luo Qingtong had injected the yin qi of the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood into the bone-corroding poison, changing the toxicity of the bone-corroding poison. How could there be an antidote? It wasn't difficult to save the woman in yellow, as long as Luo Qingtong was willing to use her eye technique to force out the mixed yin qi and poison from her body. But why would Luo Qingtong do this? Since the other party had a vicious heart, this face was quite compatible with her. A rotten person with a rotten face, a perfect match made in heaven. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she leaped and was about to leave. How could you Wen Mo and the others let her go just like that? They could give up the 1,000-year tree heart. But nothing could happen to their junior sister. Otherwise, how could they explain it to their teacher? Miss, leave the antidote. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave. Yuan Ma says and rushes towards Luo Qingtong to stop her. Behind him, the freshmen of the holy court also rush over. Chapter 143. Ha! Luo Qingtong chuckled. The next second, the bloody light in her eyes flickered. In a flash, she passed by the freshmen of the Saint Academy who came to intercept her. Their numbers were of no use to Luo Qingtong. In fact, it had even helped her to leave. Senior brother. The freshmen of the Saint Academy who rushed to Luo Qingtong first saw Luo Qingtong disappear in a flash. Instead, they saw Yuan Mo rushing to Luo Qingtong from behind. Senior brother, dodge. They hurriedly shouted. These freshmen of the Saint Academy didn't know what was going on. They had clearly surrounded that young girl, so how did she manage to escape from their encirclement in such a short time? Not only that, why were their attacks aimed at their senior brother? Yuan Mo's face turned cold when he saw their attacks coming. He quickly changed directions in the air and dodged the attacks. But in this way his speed inevitably decreased. Swish! With this dodge, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared hundreds of meters away from them. The girl's figure swayed like a fairy. Her waist was light like a willow branch in the wind. She stood at the top of a new branch. Luo Qingtong turned back to look at them. Her lips curled into a smile. Her picturesque eyes and brows were so beautiful that they could almost feel her beauty through the veil. A genius of the Saint Academy? You're just so. She chuckled. While speaking, she suddenly let go of the slender branch in her hand. In the next second, Luo Qingtong's figure followed the movement of the branch and soared into the sky like a green bird. She flew over the distant mountains and into the distance. Yuan Ma and others chased after her, but they couldn't catch up with her. In their sight, there was only the delicate and beautiful figure of the girl. She was as light as a fairy. She completely disappeared in front of them. Yuan Ma stared at Luo Qingtong's disappearing figure with deep eyes. In his mind, the girl's smile kept replaying over and over again. Wanton, free and unfettered. The dazzling elegance of it completely overshadowed the scenery of the distant new sky. Even those derogatory words didn't sound so infuriating. This was the first time that Yuan Ma felt his heart move. That young girl, who was she? Just as Yuan Ma's heart was stirred, Luo Qingtong's figure had already passed through the treetops, and in an instant she had entered the depths of the mountain range. After finding a secluded and safe place, she disguised herself and headed straight out of the mountain range. On the way she met Yu Wenmo and the others from afar. The latter and the others were unable to defeat Luo Qingtong. Without obtaining the antidote, they didn't dare to stay in the mountain range any longer. They hurriedly left with the yellow-robed woman. Luo Qingtong guessed that they would return to the Sacred Academy soon. After all, the poison on the yellow-clothed woman's face wasn't something that could be easily cured. But even if they returned to the Sacred Academy, it wouldn't be that easy to cure. Ignoring them, Luo Qingtong avoided meeting Yu Wenmo and the others and headed straight for the Blackfield subcity. Just as she was about to enter the huge dark city, Luo Qingtong's footsteps suddenly stopped. She thought of the man she had left in the bath hall halfway through her treatment. He should be fine, right? Luo Qingtong felt inexplicably guilty. Speaking of which, he was very unlucky every time he met her. God knows if she really didn't do it on purpose. Luo Qingtong felt a toothache when she thought about it. Just then she heard the discussions around her. Chapter 144. Luo Qingtong's heart shuddered. Her mansion? Luo Qingtong slowed down her steps and looked at the gossipy people beside her. Those people didn't notice her and continued to talk. Speaking of which, a lot of things have happened in the past 2 days. First, we don't know what happened, then Ming Zun suddenly left. Now, something happened to the evil doctor's mansion. Yes. Someone responded. I heard that someone came to seek revenge and was killed in the middle of the night. When the people from the bloody arena arrived, many people were killed and injured. The evil doctor's homosexual slave lover was also taken away. Luo Qingtong stopped listening when she heard this. Homosexual slave lover? The only one who could meet this condition was Su Yu. Luo Qingtong didn't care where this rumor came from. She got up and rushed to her mansion. She finally found a suitable personal attendant with great difficulty, but someone dared to come and find trouble with her. They took away her people. They even injured the people in her mansion. Luo Qingtong's face darkened completely. It was true that if the tiger didn't show its might, they would treat her like a sick cat. Swish swish swish. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in her mansion. At this moment there was a mess everywhere in the mansion. Outside the door there were blood stains like splashes of ink. Even after washing, the traces could still be seen. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold as she stepped into the mansion's door. Who is it? There were still war slaves guarding the door. When they saw someone coming in, they immediately attacked. Luo Qingtong grabbed his fist and threw him aside. Call out all the people in the mansion who are still alive. Luo Qingtong said in a low voice. The Rakshasa mask on her face looked ferocious and terrifying at this moment. She looked at the war slave in front of her calmly. The latter was stunned for a moment and then shouted in surprise. Master. Master's back. Everyone gather. Master's back. The war slave's voice echoed in the mansion. In an instant, the slaves that Luo Qingtong had purchased appeared in front of her one by one. Among them was Chu Lingfeng. Master. You're back. Seeing Luo Qingtong, Chu Lingfeng immediately rushed over. The 1.8 m tall blockhead was covered in injuries. There were bone-deep wounds and blood everywhere. Many of the battle slaves behind him were in the same situation. What's going on? Luo Qingtong glanced at them and walked straight into the main hall. She looked at everything coldly. Luo Qingtong asked in a deep voice as she glanced at the severely injured battle slaves. She immediately sealed their lifelines with a flick of her finger and fed them a bottle of life-prolonging medicinal liquid. Master, someone is here to seek revenge. They are specifically targeting Su Yu. Chu Lingfeng said in a loud voice. It turned out that after Luo Qingtong had bought Su Yu, someone had immediately come to buy slaves. Moreover, they had specified that they wanted to buy Su Yu. After being rejected by the slave market, they had inquired about it. After learning that it was Luo Qingtong who had bought Su Yu, they had come to buy Su Yu back. Chu Lingfeng originally thought that these people were Su Yu's relatives. He didn't expect that Su Yu's complexion would change greatly after seeing these people. The two sides almost clashed on the spot. That night those people came to kill them. Chapter 145. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Behind the Rakshasa mask, a pair of empty black eyes overflowed with murderous intent and flashed with blood-red light. No one can touch the people around me without my permission. How dare you seek revenge on me? You're courting death. The blood-red light in Luo Qingtong's eyes was ice cold. Go and call the people from the bloody arena. Tell them that if something like this happens in my mansion in the Blackfield again, then my cooperation with them will be terminated. Even in the Blackfield there were people seeking revenge on her. What was the use of having such a partner? There were so many forces in the Blackfield. Why couldn't she cooperate with anyone? Why did she have to work with the bloody arena? They had really let her down. This time, Su Yu's arrest had completely touched Luo Qingtong's nerves. Even if it was a cat or a dog, she wouldn't allow others to touch the people around her. Whoever dared to reach out would be chopped off. If those people dared to seek revenge on her, then they were seeking their own deaths. Lord Evil Doctor. The people from the bloody arena were called over by Chu Lingfeng and the others. They immediately lowered their heads and kept wiping away their sweat. This time, it was indeed our bloody arena's mistake. They didn't expect that someone would dare to attack the Lord Evil Doctor's mansion in the Blackfield. Where did this hothead come from? He didn't even put the dignity of the Blackfield in his eyes. Or did those people think that no one would know if they came in secret? The people from the bloody arena thought for a while and gnashed their teeth. Don't let him find those people. Otherwise, without waiting for the Lord Evil Doctor to make a move, they would all be killed. Lord Evil Doctor, don't worry. We've already mobilized all our connections to find out the whereabouts of those people. There won't be a next time. Luo Qingtong interrupted him. The pair of cold eyes on the Rakshasa mask looked at him coldly. If there's a next time, you people from the bloody arena don't have to come to me anymore. As for these people this time, you don't have to care about them. Those who dared to touch her people, she would let those people know the price. Yes. The steward of the bloody arena didn't dare to say more. He hurriedly wiped his cold sweat and retreated. This Lord Evil Doctor's power was too strong. Facing the other party, he felt as if he was facing a high lord. What the hell? Chu Lingfeng was puzzled as he watched the steward of the bloody arena leave, sweating profusely. Master, why don't we let them investigate? Wouldn't he be able to find out the whereabouts of those people faster and rescue Su Yu if he made those people in the bloody arena weaker? Chu Lingfeng still cared a lot about the young man who spoke good words for him in front of the master. Other than his master, he only recognized Su Yu as his companion. There's no need. Someone knows the whereabouts of those people better than them. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she sneered and walked to a parasol tree in front of the courtyard. She lifted her foot and kicked it hard. Do you want to come out by yourselves, or do you want me to drag you out one by one? She crossed her arms and said. The person who was hiding on the parasol tree felt a wave of bewilderment. Did the evil doctor discover that they were waiting for him? Just as they were hesitating, Luo Qingtong became impatient. She directly asked Chu Lingfeng to bring a bucket of water over. With a bang, she poured the water on top of the parasol tree. Chapter 146. Bang. Bang. There were two muffled sounds. Ouch. Two figures were thrown out of it. Are you satisfied? Luo Qingtong looked at them, then raised her hand and clapped twice. Everyone else, come out now. Luo Qingtong crossed her arms and stood in the middle of the courtyard. She looked coldly at the two people who fell out and swept her gaze across the courtyard. The face on the Rakshasa mask was cold and gloomy. She was too lazy to catch them one by one, so she simply called out their names. Those on the eaves 30 degrees to the left. The flower bed at the back. The bushes at the front. The wall hanging on the left. The pillars on the right. Everyone who is hiding, come out. These people were the ones who were ordered by Yi Qianxian to monitor Luo Qingtong. The man had left, but these people were still loyal to Luo Qingtong's residence. Now they were all caught by Luo Qingtong. Swish, swish, swish. A group of people walked out from their hiding places hesitantly. Luo Qingtong looked at them with a cold smile and walked over. You guys are pretty good. Luo Qingtong looked at them, the smile on her lips cold and evil. I deliberately didn't catch you guys and let you complete your task properly. You just watched as my residents suffered? Good. Not bad. You can do it. The group of people who were ordered to monitor Luo Qingtong were in a mess. So, Lord Evil Doctor had discovered them long ago. Those patrol routes that happened to pass by their hiding places every day were not a coincidence at all. But very quickly when they heard Luo Qingtong's words, they felt bitter again. Lord Evil Doctor, it's not that we don't want to take action. We were spying on you from the shadows. If we take action, won't we expose ourselves? Everyone wanted to cry but had no tears. Under Luo Qingtong's stare, they cowered and didn't dare to make a sound. They didn't know why they were afraid. But he still felt that Lord Evil Doctor's aura was very scary. Luo Qingtong also knew that their duties couldn't be exposed at will. She had no intention of pursuing this matter. She had only pulled these people out for one thing. Tell me about those people. Although these people didn't make a move, they were ordered to monitor his residence. They must have seen those people make a move. He might even know where the other party is now. After all, he was a professional in this industry. Luo Qingtong was too lazy to wait for the people of the bloody arena to investigate. By the time they found out, it would be too late. Who knew what those people would do if they caught Suyu? As for her people, other than herself, she would chop off their claws if they dared to touch her. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't tell me, I'll tell your city lord that you exposed your identities to me. You should know what will happen if you do that, right? Luo Qingtong looked at them coldly. Actually, I don't care if you guys are watching me. Isn't it the same no matter who it is? But the premise is that it's good for both of us, right? Luo Qingtong said and patted them on the shoulder. You can monitor me, but you can't ignore this kind of thing. Otherwise, I'll be very unhappy. And I'll be unhappy. Chapter 147. Understood. How could they dare to say they didn't understand? Luo Qingtong's meaning was very clear. In the future, they would be ordered to protect her instead of monitoring her. If anything happened to her residence, she would settle the score with them. The group of people were instantly changed by Luo Qingtong, and they couldn't even say a word. They were mentally exhausted. But they couldn't afford to offend this lady. This was someone that their lord had specially instructed them to pay attention to. They didn't dare to resist. Under Luo Qingtong's threat, the group of people obediently revealed the details of the attackers. People sent by the Qing clan of the Rising Sun country? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. So they're from an aristocratic family of a high-class country. No wonder they're so arrogant. He sneered. The cause of the matter was very simple. A disciple of the Qing clan from the high-class country had some conflicts with Suyu. Now that the Qing clan was in trouble, he heard that Suyu was sold as a slave, so he wanted to buy her back and torture her. It was said that Luo Qingtong didn't want to give up after buying her. But they didn't expect that Luo Qingtong gave Suyu so much authority. The group of people arrogantly came to ask for her, but Suyu ordered people to beat them out. That night, they directly covered their faces and came to kidnap her. At this time, they had already left the Blackfield city and were probably preparing to return. Luo Qingtong sneered in her heart. It seems that my reputation as an evil doctor isn't big enough. How dare any Tom, Dick and Harry find trouble with me? The bloody light in her eyes was cold. The steward of the bloody arena who had yet to leave trembled when he heard that. He hurriedly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, Lord Evil Doctor, don't worry. There won't be a next time. We, the bloody arena, will immediately send a warning to the Qing clan through the Blackfield city of the Rising Sun country. They are not allowed to do anything against Lord Evil Doctor's subordinates. Otherwise they will be punished by the bloody arena. That had better be the case. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and looked at them. Then he waved his hand and said, All right, you can all return to your positions. Remember, there will be no next time. They had already left the Blackfield subcity. It was impossible to rely on the people from the Blackfield. Luo Qingtong narrowed her empty black eyes and sneered. Did they think that they could rest easy after leaving the Blackfield subcity? You guys stay in the mansion and clean it up. I'll be back soon. Luo Qingtong looked at Chu Lingfeng and said after the surveillance team and the people of the bloody arena left. Since Suyu wasn't here, Luo Qingtong naturally handed over the matters of the mansion to the blockhead. Chu Lingfeng was a little silly, but there was one good thing about him. That was to only listen to Luo Qingtong's orders. What a one-track mind. Luo Qingtong was relieved to leave the matter to him. When I'm not in the mansion, I won't see anyone. If anyone dares to trespass, kill without mercy. Chu Lingfeng said with a murderous look. The blockhead spent all his time in the bloody arena. He didn't learn anything else, but he learned how to kill decisively and have a strong murderous aura. If not for this, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have accepted him. She didn't need an idiot who only knew how to cry by her side. It was good that Chu Lingfeng was like this. Luo Qingtong didn't think there was anything wrong with his foolishness. Master, you must save Su Yu. After that murderous sentence, Chu Lingfeng returned to his silly character. Chapter 148. This blockhead, although he was stupid, he wasn't stupid. Luo Qingtong glanced at him and smiled. Who told you that I'm going to save Su Yu? Isn't that so? Chu Lingfeng looked at Luo Qingtong with a stupefied expression. Master, you can't leave Su Yu alone. He's very good to us. He's also very loyal and devoted to Master. Taking Luo Qingtong's words seriously, Chu Lingfeng became anxious. Such a big blockhead pounced on Luo Qingtong with a swish. Stop. Luo Qingtong raised her hand to stop him. This blockhead, why is he like a big wolf dog pouncing on me every time she said he would? Luo Qingtong looked at the clothes she had just changed into, and then looked at his body that was mixed with blood and mud. Her lips suddenly twitched. Okay, I'll go save him. Hurry and wash your body clean and apply the medicine while you're at it. She was just teasing this blockhead for fun, but she didn't expect him to take it seriously. At this time, if she didn't go out to save Su Yu, could it be that she went out to look at the scenery? Honestly, look after the house and wait for me to come back, Luo Qingtong said, and a bloodthirsty smile appeared on her lips. She turned to look at the battle slaves standing not far away. Looking at the big and small injuries on their bodies, she suddenly narrowed her eyes. All of you come here, she ordered them. The group of people all stood in front of Luo Qingtong. The girl looked at them and suddenly released her mental strength. Pa pa pa. Under countless crisp sounds, these stupefied battle slaves' bodies shook fiercely, and they looked at Luo Qingtong with regret. Master. They looked at Luo Qingtong with shock, just like Su Yu when his slave imprint was shattered. Their hearts were also full of disbelief. Did the master destroy the slave imprint in their minds? Wasn't she afraid that they would betray her? Especially those martial marquis experts, their gazes towards Luo Qingtong were even more shocked. Don't look at me like that. Luo Qingtong looked at them indifferently. Although the slave imprint can guarantee your loyalty, it prevents you from fully displaying your strength. I don't want something like this to happen again. Also, since I dared to remove the slave imprint in your body, I'm confident that I won't suffer any backlash from you. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. Luo Qingtong originally planned to remove the slave imprint on these battle slaves soon. She didn't want to leave any hidden dangers around her. In particular, the slave imprints not only restricted the loyalty of these people, but also restricted their strength, making them unable to fully display their strength. Otherwise, with so many slaves in Luo Qingtong's residence, even if the Qing clan of the Rising Sun country came, they shouldn't have been beaten so badly. And Su Yu was taken away. This was simply a great humiliation. Luo Qingtong directly shattered the slave imprint in their bodies. If these people knew their place, there would naturally be benefits for them in the future. If they didn't know their place, did they really think that her slave imprint could be removed so easily? Luo Qingtong didn't mind if someone tried to test the law and let the others see the outcome. We obey master's orders. The group of battle slaves was silent for a moment, then they all kneeled on the ground and sincerely acknowledged their allegiance. Luo Qingtong's methods were unfathomable. It was their fortune to be able to follow such a master. Furthermore, the other party gave them a new life. Very good. Marshal Mark, follow me, the rest stay here, Luo Qingtong said and leaped away. Chapter 149. Thousands of meters away from the Blackfield subcity, a rather luxurious flying boat was docked at the foot of a mountain. The door of the flying boat opened and a group of people walked out. Elder Lu, I didn't expect to meet you here. It's really a great fortune. A man who looked like a steward said respectfully to a middle-aged man who was dressed in an elder's attire and had a shocking aura. With you around, we don't have to worry about our journey. Yes. Elder Lu nodded. I just came back from the capital of Eastern Fence Nation. I had some matters to attend to, but I returned empty-handed. He sighed at this point and a trace of unwillingness faintly appeared on his face. When the steward heard this, he exchanged glances with the guard beside him. They both knew what the steward was talking about. The news of the celestial sex ruins appearing near the capital of the Eastern Fence Nation had already spread throughout the entire Great Qin sacred dynasty. Countless powerful cultivators had traveled day and night to go there, but in the end, all of them returned empty-handed. It seemed that this elder Lu was the same. However, this was also their fortune. With this martial king elder Lu, they didn't have to worry about not being able to return safely. "You're here to do something for young Master Ling Yun?" Elder Lu asked as his gaze swept across the huge iron cage they were carrying. "That's right." The steward smiled. "It's just a small matter. An enemy of young Master Ling Yun's younger brother was sold as a slave. Young Master's younger brother asked us to buy him back to vent our anger. Isn't he locked in this iron cage? We're just waiting to bring him back to vent our anger for young Master's younger brother. This flying boat was also given to us by young Master to do something for him. Let's go and return quickly." The steward laughed. He didn't say that the person was snatched from Luo Qingtong. Just as Luo Qingtong thought, this steward was used to flaunting his power in the Qing family of a high-class nation. He didn't think that there was anything to be afraid of from an evil doctor in a small Blackfield subsidy of Eastern Fence Nation. What kind of powerful person could come from such a remote and desolate place? The steward didn't know Luo Qingtong's status in the Blackfield. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to be so presumptuous. Even the bloody arena had to treat him as a guest of honor. Was he someone they could offend? Unfortunately, he didn't know anything. Moreover, she relied on the fact that she was working for young Master Ling Yun and the fact that the other party was a genius of the Great Chu Sacred Academy, so she didn't put Luo Qingtong, this evil doctor, in her eyes. So much so that it was too late for regrets. Because of this, the Qing clan was in big trouble. Elder Lu nodded when he heard that and did not say anything else. Although he didn't receive any news about the Immortal sex ruins after returning from the Eastern Fence Nation's 9 Shamans Mountain, he still received a lot of benefits. He wanted to study it properly, so he didn't pay much attention to what the steward wanted him to do. He asked casually and then ignored him. A group of people started a bonfire in the open space next to them and threw Su Yu's cage to the side. Bang! After a violent vibration, the cage tilted, revealing Su Yu, who was imprisoned inside. Her limbs were chained and tied to the 4 corners of the cage. Her beautiful face, which didn't lose to any man, was pale from the loss of blood. Only her eyes, which were as wild as a wolf, stared at the steward and the Qing clan guards. "What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll dig out your eyes." Chapter 150. A lowly prisoner. "How dare you be so impudent?" The steward sneered as he looked at the huge iron cage that was tumbling around. "Su Yu, third young Master Su. Do you still think you're the Su family's young Master Ru Yu?" "The Su family has long been exterminated. You, young Master Ru Yu, have also become a slave in someone else's hands. How is it? Did you enjoy the suffering on the flying ship just now? If you don't behave and put away your horrifying gaze, I'll dig your eyes out. Let's see if you still dare to look at me like that." Su Yu didn't say anything. That pair of unruly and cold eyes never left the steward. Seeing that Su Yu wasn't moved by force or persuasion, the steward was extremely enraged. He couldn't really dig Su Yu's eyes out. One had to know that young Master Ling Yun's younger brother had indicated that he wanted to bring Su Yu back for him to torture. Under such circumstances, how could he overstep his authority? However, he was unwilling to be stared at by Su Yu like this. Suddenly, his eyes turned as if he thought of something. He sneered and said to Su Yu maliciously, "Young Master Su Yu, do you know how your Su family was exterminated?" Losing the important border city caused the army to suffer a crushing defeat. The Su family's commander-in-chief was killed, and the entire family was convicted. Aren't you curious? Why is it that your Su family has been in charge of the army for generations and has never made any mistakes before? Why did you make such a huge mistake in such an important battle? When Su Yu heard this, she was shocked. Her expression, which had not changed, suddenly changed. "It's you?" she said hoarsely. That hoarse voice still couldn't hide the coldness in it. However, at this moment, This coldness was completely tainted with fiery anger and hatred. It's you. It's the Qing family. You destroyed my Su family. She struggled to get up and the iron chains on her limbs made crisp clanging sounds. That's right. It must be very painful, right? Actually, it's not just the Qing family but also the imperial family. Who asked your Su family to be so meritorious to the emperor? You even went against our Qing family. Perfect. Our eldest young master has entered the Great Chu Sacred Academy. Your Su family can only become an abandoned child. Who told your brilliant elder brother to die so early? Without such a powerful person, your Su family can only be destroyed. The steward looked at Su Yu's pained expression and laughed out loud. Although he couldn't torture Su Yu, he could still torture him in this way. Humph. What Su family's young master? He was still a slave and a prisoner. In the past, when the Su family was flourishing, he didn't even have the qualifications to look up to a young master like Su Yu. But now he could only be locked in a cage and humiliated. Looking at Su Yu's eyes that looked like she wanted to kill him but couldn't do anything, the steward was very pleased. Tiske, you still don't know, right? When your Su family was destroyed, I was also present. Sigh. The screams that filled the courtyard were heart-wrenching. Oh right. The taste of your Su family's miss is quite good. The steward said with a smug look on his face. I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you. Su Yu went crazy. Anyone who knew the cruel truth would not be able to bear it. Su Yu had always thought that the loss of that war was a mistake of the Su family. Therefore, when facing the imperial family's punishment, the Su family didn't have any resistance. Her father even committed suicide with guilt. The entire Su family army fell apart. All the Su family's generals were convicted. She was even captured by the enemy and sold as a slave. But now she found out that this was a trap. A conspiracy concocted by the imperial family and the Qing family to deal with the Su family. Chapter 151. I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to kill all of you. Su Yu struggled frantically. Her cultivation was suppressed and she could not use any of her strength. Her hands scratched the iron chain and blood instantly flowed out. Haha. Looking at Su Yu's painful appearance, the steward laughed arrogantly. Scream all you want. When you reach the Qing family, there will be more painful things for you. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. Is that so? Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to bring her back. The moment the voice sounded, a ghostly figure appeared in front of them from afar. Who? Who are you? Hearing the voice, the steward of the Qing family instantly shouted. He took a step back and stared vigilantly at the direction where the figure appeared. His expression was extremely alert. From the other party's words, it seemed that he was here for Su Yu. Behind him, a group of guards also stood up and quickly surrounded him. Elder Lu, who was resting with his eyes closed, also opened his eyes. You don't have the right to know who I am. Luo Qingtong's figure slowly appeared beside the iron cage. Looking at Su Yu, who was locked in the cage like a dog, Luo Qingtong's expression suddenly turned cold. You only need to know that I'm the one who wants your life. How dare they treat the people around her like this? These people from the Qing family were courting death. Master. Seeing Luo Qingtong appear, Su Yu's cold and desperate heart was filled with warmth. She did not expect Luo Qingtong to specially come to save her. When she was taken away from the mansion by the Qing clan, she had already given up all hope. When she knew the truth about the Su family's destruction, she was even more desperate. The Qing family was a first-class family in the Rising Sun country. If the Su family was still around, they could still fight against them. But now, Su Yu's eyes were filled with extreme pain. Master, don't worry about me. Go quickly. There are martial king experts here. Before Su Yu could finish his words, the steward of the Qing family had already looked at Luo Qingtong maliciously. It turned out that the master and the slave had deep feelings for each other. Are you the evil doctor who bought Su Yu's jade? They actually chased him all the way here. Just as well, then I'll capture them both. Be our Qing clan's slave. Although the manager didn't think that Luo Qingtong had any ability, he still felt that she was a swindler. It was just a stroke of luck that made him famous in the Blackfield subsidy of the Eastern Fence country. However, if he could make Suyu suffer, he was still very willing to do it. This would definitely make the young master's younger brother very happy. At that time there would be many benefits for him. Sure enough, after hearing his words, Suyu bit her lip hard and hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong, "Mistress, hurry and leave. Don't worry about me. This is a grudge between our Su family and the Qing family. It has nothing to do with you." It was enough for Mistress to give her freedom and a new life. She couldn't implicate Mistress anymore. "Wanna leave? It's too late." The manager sneered and raised his hand. "Capture her." Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes at the manager. When the guards rushed up, she also raised her hand and made a gesture. "Surround them all. Don't let anyone go." She was going to start a massacre today. Swish, swish, swish. Chapter 152. Haha. You dare to show off in front of our Qing clan with just a few martial marquis? The steward looked at the martial marquis experts who appeared behind Luo Qingtong. He felt an indescribable sense of mockery in his heart and laughed loudly. "You are indeed a country bumpkin from the Eastern Fence country. You think you can do anything to us with just a few martial marquis experts? Let me tell you, in our Rising Sun country, martial marquis experts are just elite guards. Your martial marquis slaves were beaten to a pulp by us. If not for the fact that we are in the Blackfields territory, do you think they can escape unscathed? I didn't expect you to bring them to encircle and annihilate us." "Ha." The steward laughed wantonly. "Young Master Suyu," he mocked, "this is your master? She doesn't seem to be very smart. You are not allowed to insult my master." Suyu's eyes were bloodshot as she struggled desperately against the chains on the iron cage. If not for her, her master would not have been humiliated. "Master, leave quickly. Leave." Luo Qingtong did not look at her. She only looked at the laughing steward. "You talk too much nonsense." She lowered her eyes and in the next second, her figure suddenly flew up. "You are courting death." Seeing Luo Qingtong rushing towards him, the steward's expression suddenly became serious. The aura on his body suddenly exploded. It was the aura of a martial marquis. Furthermore, it was the strength of a 6th-stage martial marquis. He went up to Luo Qingtong. "I originally wanted to make fun of you. Since you are courting death, I will fulfill your wish." He sneered. "Leave this evil doctor to me. The rest of you surround and kill those martial marquis slaves," he said in a deep voice. However, before he could finish speaking, Luo Qingtong, who should have been hundreds of meters away, suddenly appeared in front of him. The death blade in her hand fiercely slashed. In an instant, blood splattered. The steward's throat was instantly cut open. "I told you talk too much nonsense." In front of Luo Qingtong's eye technique, the manager's every move was under her observation. That steward thought that she had appeared in front of him in an instant, but in reality, Luo Qingtong had already seen through his next move through her eye technique and had deliberately waited for him at that place. It was equivalent to the steward bumping into Luo Qingtong's death blade. "You." The steward clutched his throat that had been cut open and looked at Luo Qingtong with shock in his eyes. With a thump, he fell backwards. An instant kill. From start to finish, Luo Qingtong and this steward's opponent had not lasted more than 10 breaths of time. Everyone was stunned. The guards who were rushing towards the battle slaves were instantly dumbfounded. The manager died just like that. Although his strength wasn't considered high among them, it wasn't low either. An expert of the 6th level of martial marquis was actually slashed in the throat by a sword. They were shocked in their hearts. Although everyone could see that Luo Qingtong was able to do this because it was unexpected. But even if it was unexpected, you still needed to have the corresponding strength. The opponent's aura was clearly not at the great martial general realm. For a great martial general to kill a martial marquis was already considered a genius that appeared once in 100 years. Luo Qingtong had directly jumped 2 realms to kill the enemy. And it was a fatal blow. Chapter 153. Swish. While they were still in a daze, Luo Qingtong's figure flashed once again. Her strength had risen to the 9th stage of the martial general realm, and she was able to display her full strength. It could be said that Luo Qingtong's movements completely represented the peak of strength at this stage. Even if it was a genius expert with the same cultivation level in front of Luo Qingtong, they would not be able to control their strength as accurately as her. They would not be able to display their strength as much as her. If it was said that a 9th stage martial general genius could display 200% of their strength, then Luo Qingtong's strength had no upper limit. At this stage, where the strongest strength that could be displayed was where Luo Qingtong's strength was at. The reason why there was such an effect was because under Luo Qingtong's eye technique, she was able to grasp the strength of her body like the back of her hand. When a person was able to completely understand their own strength, they would be able to use every bit of strength in their body at will. The difference between the different stages would not be that big. Using a simple example, a high school student could use a high school formula to solve a problem. A middle school student, as long as his brain was developed enough, could also use a middle school formula to solve the problem. Under this kind of situation, was there any difference between the two? It was even possible that the middle school student's final solution would be even more perfect. Who do you think is more powerful? Under the martial king realm, as long as the cultivator did not reach the Xiantian unity stage, they would not be able to resonate with the power of heaven and earth. In front of Luo Qingtong, there would be no difference between them and a sieve. There would be flaws everywhere. As long as she could find those flaws, and when the opponent tried to cover them up in time, she would quickly break them. Then even if it was a martial lord expert in front of her, they would not be able to withstand a single blow. Luo Qingtong's biggest problem was that her strength was not enough to break through the opponent's defense. And with the strength of a 9th stage martial general, coupled with the cutting ability of the death blade, it was just enough to break through the defense of a martial lord. She could kill these people like chopping melons and vegetables. Only experts at the peak of the martial marquis realm could barely withstand her attack. But they could only barely withstand it. Luo Qingtong stared coldly at the guard commander who was at the peak of martial lord realm. This person was the strongest among the steward's guards. With the strength of a peak martial marquis, he withstood every single one of her attacks. Every time, the death blade was so close to breaking through the opponent's defense and taking his life. But she was so close that Luo Qingtong could not break through his defense. Haha. There's nothing you can do to me. The guard commander who was at the peak of the martial lord realm started to panic. Luo Qingtong's speed was too fast. Almost in an instant, the guards around him all fell down. The steward's words were a complete joke. What about surrounding and killing the other party's martial lord realm slaves? They hadn't even touched the other party's slaves yet. Almost all of them were killed by this evil doctor alone. This guard commander finally understood why Luo Qingtong dared to chase after them with a few martial lord realm slaves. It turned out that the other party was completely confident. Fortunately, the other party seemed to be unable to do anything to him. This caused the guard commander's heart to rise with infinite hope. He laughed loudly and pounced towards Luo Qingtong. As for those martial lord realm slaves, he did not even put them in his eyes. These people were under the control of the slave imprint and could not fully display their strength. He could kill them all with one hand. Chapter 154. Swish. Luo Qingtong's body rose again. The death blade in her hand suddenly changed its form, turning into a milky white life blade state. He slashed down. Under the life blade, the defense of the peak martial lord, which was originally unbreakable, was instantly absorbed by the life blade. At the same time, the defensive power of the peak martial lord also stagnated. Now is the time. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. Under the dark red 3D vision, the flaws in the body of the expert at the peak of the martial lord realm were instantly revealed. This time the flaw was a flaw that could be broken. Boom. The life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand instantly changed its form again. Under the absorption state of the life blade, the strength of the peak martial lord was slightly weakened. But Luo Qingtong's strength slightly increased. Under this situation, Luo Qingtong's death blade instantly pierced through the opponent's defense and went straight for his heart. Bang! The tip of the sword penetrated his chest and came out from the back. Luo Qingtong's lips revealed a smile like a bloodthirsty demon flower, and she turned the long sword in her hand. With a boom, the expert at the peak of the martial lord realm did not even have time to react before his heart was minced into pieces. Bang! Luo Qingtong lifted her foot and kicked his body to the side. The few martial lord realm slaves at the side were dumbfounded. Especially the peak martial lord slave expert. Originally, when he saw that Luo Qingtong could not break the defense of the peak martial lord guard, he wanted to come up and help. But before he could rush up, Luo Qingtong had already killed the guard commander who was at the peak of martial lord realm with one strike. Master is actually so powerful. Looking at the terrifying death of the guard commander, the peak martial lord battle slave expert's expression froze for a while. He shrunk his neck and inexplicably felt a burst of cold air. He secretly rejoiced that when the slave mark was removed, he did not have the thought of defecting. Otherwise, his fate would not be much better than the guard commander's. The master of the demonic doctor was too powerful. Obviously, the aura emitted from her body was not at the great martial general realm. It was really too terrifying. If Luo Qingtong was also a martial marquis expert, this peak martial marquis battle slave expert would not be so afraid. But Luo Qingtong, she was not even at the great martial general realm. Where could he find such a terrifying martial general realm expert? Is she still human? Just as the group of martial marquis realm battle slaves were shocked by the terrifying degree of their master, on the other side Elder Lu, who had watched the entire process of the Qing family being destroyed, was ecstatic. Good sword. He looked greedily at the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand. He did not know Luo Qingtong's hidden card, so he thought that Luo Qingtong's great power was the blessing of the life and death sword. It could allow a martial general realm expert to directly kill an enemy 2 realms higher. What kind of divine weapon was this sword? If he could get it, wouldn't his strength increase greatly? At that time, not to mention the Qing family, he could even do whatever he wanted in the big empires. Wouldn't those super families of the sacred dynasty treat him as a distinguished guest? Chapter 155. Fancy the sword in my hand? Old dog, I'm afraid you won't have the life to take it. Luo Qingtong raised her hand to shake off the blood on her sword. She tilted her sword slightly and pointed it at the ground. She raised her hand and pointed the tip of the sword at Elder Lu. Come and take it if you can. That disdainful attitude and provocation instantly made the veins on Elder Lu's forehead bulge. He was furious. What did you say? You're courting death. As he spoke, he suddenly rushed towards Luo Qingtong. I'm kind enough to give you a way out, but you don't want it. Then go to hell. Elder Lu's voice was filled with rage. His claws were like an eagle's hook as they viciously clawed at Luo Qingtong. At the same time, his body erupted with a power that only a martial king expert could possess. The surrounding spiritual qi of heaven and earth was stirred up by the eruption of his aura. Martial king realm Khanate unity. The power in one's body could be manipulated at will, and it could also manipulate the surrounding spiritual qi of heaven and earth to create momentum. At the beginning, Elder Lu's claw only contained 50% of his strength. But after the momentum was created, the attack power instantly increased to 100%. This was the unique advantage of a martial king expert. When they reached the martial king realm, they could release the energy from their body and add another layer of attack power on top of their own attacks. Bam! Following Elder Lu's claw, there seemed to be a loud sound in the air. The attack power of this claw was actually able to tear the air apart and create a sonic boom. Master! Suyu had just been released from the iron cage by the other slave experts. When he raised his head and saw this scene, he instantly rushed towards Luo Qingtong without hesitation. The expressions of the other martial marquis experts also changed. They didn't expect that there would be a martial king expert in the team sent by the Qing family. This was an expert who could establish a country. Even in a superior country like the Sunrise Country, he was a figure that was worshipped. He was an absolute expert. Why was there such an expert in the team that came to capture Suyu? Only someone at the level of a clan head or above would be able to order them around. Even if his opponent was only a cultivator who had just reached the martial emperor realm. However, Suyu was the only one who knew that Elder Lu had encountered the team sent by the Qing clan to capture him. It was all his fault. If it wasn't for him, Master wouldn't have met the other party and wouldn't have been targeted. Master! Leave quickly. Let us stop him. Hurry back to Blackfield. Suyu rushed in front of Luo Qingtong and raised her hand to block the attack. When the other marquee-level battle slaves heard this, they quickly reacted. They were powerless against a martial king realm expert. They might as well risk their lives to protect their master and escape. With master's status and identity in Blackfield City, he would definitely be able to avenge them. Master, leave quickly. They also rushed up and instantly formed a human wall in front of Luo Qingtong. Haha. Don't even think about leaving. A ray of light suddenly burst out from Elder Lu's hand and fiercely blasted towards Luo Qingtong and the others. External release of energy. External attack. Looking at the horrifying attack coming towards them, Su Yu and the others didn't even think about rushing forward. At this moment, a gentle force suddenly pushed them away. At this moment, a brilliant black light suddenly shot out from behind them. Chapter 156. There was a loud explosion. The black light that flew out from behind them collided with Elder Lu's blast of energy. Under this heavy explosion, the surrounding air instantly exploded. A huge gust of wind exploded. Waves of aftershocks blasted in all directions. Su Yu and those martial marquee battle slaves were blown away by the violent force. Their bodies swayed left and right and they almost fell to the ground. Master! Su Yu turned around wanting to see who saved them. He suddenly turned around and saw Luo Qingtong standing behind them with the death blade. There was no one else except her. That attack just now was sent out by Master? Su Yu and the other battle slaves were dumbfounded as they watched the scene unfold. That was an off-body attack that only martial kings could launch. How did Master do it? Their gazes involuntarily focused on the death blade in Luo Qingtong's hand. This sword is so powerful. Indeed, that attack just now was launched by Luo Qingtong with the death blade. When Luo Qingtong obtained the life and death sword, she was already able to use the death blade to launch a sword attack that only martial kings could launch. But at that time the power in her body was not enough. She could barely launch one attack. But now it was not like this. Old dog, you want to steal my sword with your little strength? You're boasting too shamelessly. Seeing that Su Yu and the others were almost killed, Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold and she directly waved her hand. Swish. The biting cold black light penetrated the death blade like the light of a death scythe and heavily chopped at Elder Lu in front of her. The latter was now looking at the life and death duality sword like a hungry wolf. Haha. Good. Good sword. A peerless sword. Elder Lu's heart was filled with indescribable ecstasy. The surprise that this sword gave him was simply too great. Previously it was enough to make Luo Qingtong kill a martial marquee expert. Who would have thought that it would be able to make a martial general realm expert directly release a sword chi attack to fight against him, a martial king realm expert? Good. This is great. Such a peerless treasure. She was destined to be his. Haha. Originally I wanted to spare your lives to torture you. Now I've changed my mind. All of you must die. Someone who had seen this sword. All of you must die. Such a peerless sword. I must hide it well. I can't let anyone know. I was right to let the Qing family's people be killed by this evil doctor. Haha. He laughed loudly. With a boom, the aura around him exploded. A fiery red longsword instantly appeared in his hand. I'll let you see what the true strength of a martial king is. That's not something that can be compared to the sword chi that you can release with a sword. As he spoke, he raised his hand and waved it. A sword light several meters long shot out from the long sword and rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Master! Careful! Su Yu and the others felt their hearts tighten as they watched. Although their master could release a sword light that only a martial king could have, she was not a real martial king. Would mistress be able to block this move? Just as their hearts tightened, the two sword lights collided in mid-air. Boom! Luo Qingtong's sword light was suddenly broken. Seeing that Elder Lu's attack was about to penetrate, Su Yu and the others could not help but scream. Chapter 157. With a bang, Elder Lu's attack also shattered in mid-air. How is this possible? Elder Lu, who was about to laugh maniacally, was instantly stunned. How is this possible? His full-strength attack was actually unable to deal with the attack of the evil doctor, who was not even at the great martial general stage. How is this possible? No matter how powerful that black sword was, the opponent had to have the strength to unleash it. A great martial general stage was simply unable to unleash the full power of that long sword. Elder Lu was confident that he could behead the opponent under his sword light. He did not expect that he would be able to break through the opponent's attack. But his own sword light attack was also neutralized. Elder Lu's heart was filled with disbelief. However, only Luo Qingtong knew how she did it. No matter how strong the attack was, it had a weak point. The opponent's attack was strong. But she had already seen through the weakest point of his sword light through her eye technique. When she waved her sword, she had already rushed towards that trajectory and destroyed that weak point, neutralizing the opponent's attack. No. I don't believe it. Elder Lu's face was filled with rage. He raised his sword and rushed forward. The fiery red sword light swallowed and spat out. He did not believe it. His opponent was able to completely block his attack with a single sword. If one attack was not enough, then two. He did not believe that the opponent could block all of them. Rumble. The two figures quickly clashed with each other. Su Yu and the rest, who had been thrown to the ground by the aftermath of the terrifying attacks, were extremely shocked. If it was said that Luo Qingtong blocked Elder Lu's attack the first time, they felt that it was a fluke. But this time they were completely shocked. Just as Elder Lu thought, no matter how powerful the sword in Master's hand was, without the corresponding strength, it was impossible to fight against a martial king expert. So when Master killed those martial marquis experts, she did not use her full strength. While Su Yu and the rest were shocked, Elder Lu became more and more alarmed as he fought. Terrifying. Too terrifying. What kind of monster was the opponent? Elder Lu could clearly feel that the sword light emitted by Luo Qingtong through the death blade was not as powerful as his own attack. However, his opponent was able to negate his attacks every single time. He wanted to increase his attack power to almost the same level as hers. Every single one of his attacks seemed to have collided with her sword light. Then when his opponent's sword light shattered, the power of his attack was also negated. Once or twice could be considered a coincidence. It was the same every time. Could it be that the other party was able to see through his attack? Thinking of this, that Elder Lu was greatly alarmed. At this time he no longer despised Luo Qingtong. Instead, a trace of coldness emerged from the bottom of his heart. A martial general cultivator, even if he had a divine sword in his hand, would not be able to fight with him like this. And not only did the other party do it. In fact, it was even showing signs of suppressing him. Elder Lu had a feeling that as time passed, the rhythm of his attacks and the circulation of his qi seemed to be becoming more and more clear to his opponent. If this continued, perhaps he would be killed here instead. No way. This can't go on. As Elder Lu thought about it, he gritted his teeth. Boom. He flipped his wrist. In an instant, the long sword in his hand suddenly emitted a blazing and fierce light. Following his wave, it was like a huge fireball rushing towards Luo Qingtong. Chapter 158. King-level cultivation technique Raging Flame Slash. This was Elder Lu's most powerful killing move after advancing to the martial king realm. Just like that, he blasted it towards Luo Qingtong. Die. The air was filled with a biting cold and suffocating smell, faintly suffused with a scorching hot aura. Luo Qingtong's gaze turned cold when she saw the attack rushing towards her. The strength of this attack had already exceeded the extent of her ability to break it. Luo Qingtong's gaze turned cold as she raised her hand to change the death blade into a life blade. At this moment, the power in her body suddenly stagnated, coincidentally exhausted. Luo Qingtong's expression turned cold as the blood-red light in her eyes instantly flashed. Almost instantly she found the most suitable route to dodge. However, before she could make a move, a figure suddenly rushed over from the side and blocked in front of her. Master! Su Yu had been watching the battle between Luo Qingtong and Elder Lu without blinking. Although Luo Qingtong's display of strength was extremely valiant, Elder Lu was still a martial king after all. No one would know the outcome until the very last moment. Therefore, when something happened to Luo Qingtong, no one else had noticed it, but Su Yu had immediately noticed it and pounced over without a second thought. I can't let anything happen to Master. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I can't let anything happen to Master. Holding on to this belief, Suyu rushed over before Luo Qingtong could move and pounced on her. Master! She raised her hand to push Luo Qingtong away. Luo Qingtong's pupils shrank. She never thought that Suyu would pounce over without a care in the world. Anyone could see that Elder Lu's move was a killing move. Suyu had pounced over to block the arrow for her and sent herself to death. Fistful. Bang! In the instant that Luo Qingtong's body moved, she pulled Suyu's hand and dodged to the side. However, her eye technique only calculated her safest hiding position. It didn't include Suyu. Although her pull had allowed Suyu to avoid the sure-kill attack of the raging flame slash, the aftershock of the latter's berserk strength and scorching aura had instantly inflicted heavy injuries on Suyu. Luo Qingtong was instantly enraged when she saw the back of the girl who had thrown herself at her, charred and badly mutilated. Old dog. You're courting death. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes was like a storm. The blood-red glow within her eyes was strong, and when paired with her empty and black eyes, she looked like a goddess of darkness that had come from the depths of hell. When she saw Elder Lu raising his hand to launch another attack at her, the blood-red light in her eyes turned piercingly cold. She immediately summoned Little Pig. He still didn't know what was going on with the latter. As soon as it raised its head, it saw a piercingly cold and scorching light rushing towards it. Instantly, it cried out in fright and raised its 4 little hooves wanting to run away. Luo Qingtong raised a hand and pressed it down. Stop him. At least 10 breaths of time. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving the demon subduing pagoda for the rest of your life. Her voice was ice cold. Before Little Pig could react, it was lifted and thrown out. Ah! You can't do this. Why don't you call Lil White out to block me? You're treating me differently. Little Pig cried out as it flew towards the raging flame slash. At the same time, Luo Qingtong abruptly grasped the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood's core in her hand. It contained the Yi Qianxian energy that she had previously poured into it. Chapter 159. Ah! Little Pig flew toward Elder Lu's attack with a miserable expression. Just when everyone thought it would be split in half by the attack, Little Pig finally shut up after failing to get Luo Qingtong to call it back after shouting for a long time. Forget it, that woman won't fall for it. Damn it! Little Pig stomped on the ground with its 4 little hooves and instantly reversed its position in the air. Then, under everyone's widened eyes, Little Pig abruptly opened its mouth. Boom! A ray of light that was as sharp as a sword shot out from its mouth. With a bang, it collided with the attack that Elder Lu had unleashed. Rumble! The 2 lights collided in an instant. The violent shockwaves from the collision caused Little Pig's aura to weaken significantly. This attack had consumed a lot of its energy. In the next second, Little Pig turned into a pink lightning bolt and charged toward Elder Lu. Luo Qingtong said that she wanted Little Pig to block Elder Lu's attack for at least 10 breaths of time. What? What the hell is this? Elder Lu was stunned for a moment when he saw his attack was blocked by a pink mini pig that appeared out of nowhere. Then he launched another attack. This time, before the attack could reach him, Little Pig had already dodged and fled. Little Pig's 4 little hooves lightly stomped in the air and turned into pink lightning bolts. It circled around Elder Lu, not giving him a chance to disturb Luo Qingtong's recovery. Based on its understanding of that woman, once she regained her strength, it would be Elder Lu's death in the next second. Damn it! You bastard, I'll trap you until you die. It's all your fault. You made this Grandpa Pig lose a lot of energy. Do you think it's easy for me to recover a little bit of my strength? If it weren't for the fact that I'm sealed, I would have killed you with a single breath. Damn it! Little Pig grumbled in his heart as he led Elder Lu in circles. Rumble! Elder Lu launched one attack after another, but none of them could even touch Little Pig's skin. Occasionally, some of the shockwaves hit Little Pig, but it was as if they couldn't hurt Little Pig at all. From beginning to end, Little Pig didn't slow down at all. What the hell is this thing? Just as Elder Lu was shocked, there was a loud boom. On the other side, Luo Qingtong finally absorbed enough power. She leaped into the air and the blood-red light in her eyes flickered. Behind the evil Rakshasa mask, her red lips moved slightly. Get out of the way. Little Pig's cold voice. Without any hesitation, he kicked the ground and ran as far as the sky. Damn it! I'm so tired. Why did this woman provoke so many people? She actually provoked a martial king. How is she going to deal with her opponent? At the martial king realm, the qi within the body was perfectly integrated and there was almost no flaw. Even if there was a martial king Luo Qingtong, she's a martial general. Luo Qingtong, a peak martial marquis combined with the life and death yin yang sword's life and death edge effect, could barely kill him. What should she do? Little Pig was curious, so he didn't forget to turn his head around to take a look. With one look it instantly widened its beady eyes. How did this woman do it? Little Pig looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. The death blade in the girl's hand was held horizontally. Streaks of fiery red light jumped on it. The scorching and intense light set off the pure black blade. It was like the fire of the underworld from the depths of purgatory, absolutely gorgeous and terrifying. Chapter 160. Isn't this the attack that Elder Lu just used? What's it called again? Raging Flame Slash. While Little Pig was still in shock, Luo Qingtong's cold voice rang out. Zhoosh. A fiery red light with terrifying speed and murderous intent suddenly broke free from the death blade sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand. That light carried a scorching heat, sweeping up layers of heat waves in the air as it blasted towards Elder Lu, who was already dumbfounded from shock. The power and intensity of this attack were many times stronger than the Raging Flame Slash that Elder Lu used before. If the Raging Flame Slash that Elder Lu used before was only 50 points of proficiency, then Luo Qingtong's proficiency was 100 points. Perfect replication. This was another ability of Luo Qingtong's pupil technique. As long as she had enough strength, she could perfectly replicate any cultivation method or martial skill that she had seen before. This Raging Flame Slash, no matter if it was the technique or the power, had reached the most perfect level of this king-tier cultivation method. It was as if it was directly copied from a cultivation method book. His every move was perfect to the extreme. Little Pig was so shocked that his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Oh my god. What kind of abnormal master did I choose? This woman. Can this woman be any more abnormal? Under Little Pig's shocked gaze, the Raging Flame Slash rapidly slashed toward Elder Lu. The latter quickly regained his senses as the scorching heat approached him. Impossible. This is impossible. How are you able to use my secret technique? This must be a fake. Smoke screen. Yes. It's a smoke screen. Elder Lu's heart was filled with panic and fear. He shouted loudly and hurriedly waved his hand, sending out a Raging Flame Slash at the same time. However, compared to Luo Qingtong's perfect Raging Flame Slash, Elder Lu's Raging Flame Slash was like a child's play. Boom. Luo Qingtong's Raging Flame Slash quickly broke through Elder Lu's Raging Flame Slash and directly cut him in half. Bang bang. With two muffled sounds, the two halves of Elder Lu's body fell heavily onto the ground. His eyes were wide open. He couldn't believe that he had died under his own unique skill. Moreover, he had died so miserably. Boom. After Luo Qingtong's attack split Elder Lu into two halves, it didn't slow down at all. Instead, it created a huge and bottomless crack in the ground. The might of a king-level cultivation technique was truly terrifying. Bam! Little Pig fell to the ground. Looking at the Luo Qingtong's attack, his eyes widened. Oh my god. This woman was too scary, wasn't she? With just a glance, he had learned someone else's unique skill. Moreover, his attack was many times more powerful than Elder Lu's. Oh my god. Was he still human? As for the few martial marquis realm slaves who had been completely abandoned to the side and hadn't even been able to get anything, they were constantly gasping for breath. Master is really too strong. Looking at how Elder Lu died without a complete corpse, the strong enslaved figures' hearts were pounding like drums. Their reverence for Luo Qingtong was like that of a deity. A martial general was able to kill a martial king. In this world, there was probably no one who could stand shoulder to shoulder with their master. Chapter 161. Their hearts were filled with indescribable excitement. Master! Congratulations on your great victory, Master. After Luo Qingtong landed, they stepped forward and knelt on the ground. They raised their heads, their faces full of awe and reverence. Get up. Luo Qingtong's eyes were indifferent. She waved her hand and put away the life and death sword. The attack just now drained all the energy in her body, so she was a little unsteady. The power of a king-level cultivation technique was indeed powerful. If not for the energy that Yi Qianxian had poured into her body, she would not have been able to use it. Fortunately, she did not waste this energy and sealed it in the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding tree. Otherwise, she would not have been able to kill Elder Lu. If she let him escape, he would be a big problem. Clean up this place and take everything from them. Take Suyu and let's go. Luo Qingtong said in a low voice. She looked at the huge spirit boat not far away, and the corners of her lips curled up. It seemed that the harvest this time was not bad. These people from the Qing family came to capture Suyu, and they even brought a spirit boat? It looked similar to the spirit boat she saw outside the Blackfield city. Obviously, it was not an ordinary magic weapon. The spirit boat from before was an earth-level magic weapon. Could it be that this spirit boat was of the same level? If that was the case, the Qing family had really spent a lot of money. She did not know where they got it from, but they actually used such a treasure to capture Suyu. This time she had benefited from it. Yes. A group of martial marquee experts got up and quickly cleaned up the battlefield. Luo Qingtong walked to Suyu's side and helped her up. When she pushed Suyu away, she had already sealed her heart meridian and all the vital acupoints. The girl was seriously injured. Most of her back was almost burned through, and the flesh on it was badly mutilated and charred. Luo Qingtong looked at her and frowned. She picked him up and was careful not to touch Suyu's wound. At this time, the battle slaves in charge of cleaning up the battlefield came to report. Master, it's all done. These corpses, don't move, just leave it there. Luo Qingtong's voice was biting cold. She didn't mind letting the Qing family see what would happen to their men. Luo Qingtong didn't intend to hide it. Someone had come knocking on her door. If she didn't do something to intimidate them, they would think that her residence was a tea house where people came and went as they pleased. So what if he killed a member of the Qing clan? She wanted to tell everyone that her people were not to be messed with. Whoever dared to move would die. Go. The group boarded the flying boat. Luo Qingtong only glanced at the spiritual pivot that was controlling the airship, and then she released her spiritual power to erase the soul sense aura that was imprinted on it. With her eye technique and ability, it was a piece of cake for her. In just a few breaths, the huge spirit ship rushed up and flew toward the Blackfield city. Bang! Just as Luo Qingtong was controlling the huge and beautiful airship to soar into the sky, the Qing family of Sunrise Country. A luxuriously dressed young man with a golden crown on his hair suddenly changed his expression. He stood up abruptly and didn't even realize that he knocked over the chair behind him. Spirit ship. My soul sense imprint has been erased. His voice was filled with shock and anger. Before the members of the Qing family in the hall could react, a figure suddenly rushed in from outside. Chapter 162. What? Whose soul lamp was extinguished. The members of Qing clan who didn't know what was going on all stood up at once. Especially the Qing family head who had been stroking his beard and laughing heartily just now. His face darkened instantly. It's Elder Lu, Steward Zhang and Commander Chen's. The servant replied with trepidation. Bastard. The Qing family head was furious. He didn't care about Elder Lu's death, but Steward Zhang and Commander Chen. Didn't they take Yun'er's flying boat to capture Suyu? Now that they were dead, coupled with his son's words just now, a bad premonition surged in the Qing family head's heart. Could it be that his son's spirit boat was stolen? At this moment, another figure scrambled out of the room. Family head young master. There's a letter from the Black Region subsidy. As the butler spoke, he kept wiping his sweat as he raised his hand and handed over a letter. It was a black envelope with a black seal. The Qing family head and Qing Lingyun's expressions changed when they saw it. The other Qing family members also quickly quietened down. A letter from the Blackfield city. Why would the Blackfield city suddenly send them a letter? And this letter? Everyone looked at the black letter. It was clearly a letter used by the Blackfield city to issue warnings and punishments to outsiders. When did the Qing family offend the Blackfield city? Everyone thought in their hearts, feeling extremely uneasy. Only the Qing family head and Qing Lingyun knew what was going on. When they thought of how Steward Zhang and the others brought people to the Blackfield city to capture Su Yu, their expressions instantly darkened. Could it be that they offended someone over there? Caused the Blackfield city to issue a warning to them? The Qing family head was bewildered. When he opened the letter and saw the contents, his expression instantly turned extremely ugly. It was naturally an ultimatum from the bloody arena, telling them that Su Yu was evil Dr. Ghost Eye's subordinate and that they were not to provoke him in the future. Otherwise, don't blame them for being impolite. The letter was stamped with the bloody arena's headquarters seal. The head of the Qing family slammed his palm heavily on the table in front of him. Damn it! At this point the matter was very clear. The one who killed Steward Zhang and the others must be evil Dr. Ghost Eye. He didn't expect Su Yu to find such a backer. To be able to make the bloody arena's people protect him. But they didn't need to find trouble with Su Yu. What about his son's spirit boat? That was a special reward he had received from the Sacred Academy. That spirit boat's grade. Even the ordinary teachers of the Sacred Academy didn't have such a boat. Was he going to give it justs? Qing Lingyun's SS initially, he wanted to let Steward Zhang and the others use the spirit vessel to cheer his younger brother up when he returned to visit his family. Who would have thought that something like this would happen midway? Now that his spirit boat had been snatched away and the other party was protected by people from the Black Region subsidy, was he going to lose his spirit boat for nothing? Even in the Sacred Institute, that was an extremely precious flying boat. Qing Lingyun's heart bled just thinking about it. No. He couldn't let it go just like that. Father, I must get the spirit boat back. But the other party has people from the Blackfield city protecting him. The Qing family head frowned. Chapter 163. The Supreme Assassin Pavilion was the only mysterious influence within the True Spill continent that could compare with the Blackfield. Their reputation within the True Spill continent wasn't as great as the Blackfield, but they were still feared by many. This was because the Supreme Assassin Pavilion only did one business, and that was to kill. The Blackfield also had their own assassination business, but because the Blackfield's influence was so vast, many people preferred to place their orders at the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. This was because the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's rules stated that no matter who you wanted to assassinate, as long as you could pay the price, they would dare to kill you. The Saint Emperors of the Holy Dynasty and the Blackfield were no exception. Of course, their price wasn't something that the average person or influence could afford. But daring to say such words and putting the names of so many powerhouses on the list also proved the strength behind the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. It was said that behind the Supreme Assassin Pavilion was a group of powerhouses that stood at the pinnacle of the True Spill continent. They formed an alliance and formed the Supreme Assassin Pavilion out of boredom and then continued to do so. Everything within the Supreme Assassin Pavilion was kept secret, and the assassins responsible for carrying out missions were only given code names. As long as the Supreme Assassin Pavilion assassinated them, even if they didn't succeed, they wouldn't be refunded. Hearing Qing Lingyun mention the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, the Qing family head immediately reacted. That's right, if the Supreme Assassin Pavilion takes action, the Blackfield can't blame us. He excitedly said. Let's go, we'll go to the Supreme Assassin Pavilion now. Using a bit of money to exchange for a spirit boat airship was absolutely the most cost-effective transaction. Not to mention that the Eastern Fence Nation's Blackfield branch city's evil doctor. Even if he was valued by the bloody arena, how strong could he be? The Qing family head almost immediately agreed to this proposal. As the Qing family father and son headed towards the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, several figures appeared where Luo Qingtong and the others had left. Over here. A group of people rushed towards the place where the Qing family's corpses lay. These people all wore the uniform of the Blackfield. Impressively, they were from the Eastern Fence Nation's Blackfield branch city. When Luo Qingtong went out, they followed her. But they were thrown off halfway and lost their way. Only now did they arrive here. All of them were killed in one hit. One of them squatted down to investigate. Especially this elder Lu, he seems to have died at the hands of his own unique skill. Blackfield's ability to gather information was top-notch. These people were following Luo Qingtong, so they knew exactly who she was looking for. With just a casual glance, they were able to discern Elder Lu's identity. He was no stranger to the wounds on his body. It is indeed the power of Raging Flame Cut. Moreover, his technique was clean and efficient, and his power was incomparably tyrannical. It's even stronger than Elder Lu's. Go back and report to the city lord. After saying that, the group of people left. As for the corpses of the Qing clan members, they were still there. Even if Luo Qingtong didn't kill these people who dared to challenge the dignity of Blackfield City, once they found out they would still kill them. Putting their corpses here would serve as a warning to the others. While these people were retreating, Luo Qingtong had already brought Su Yu and the others back to Blackfield City. She parked the spirit boat in a hidden mountain range outside Blackfield City and returned to Blackfield City with Su Yu and the others. As soon as they entered the residence, Luo Qingtong issued an order. Seal the residence. Without my order, no one is allowed to disturb us. Chapter 164. Mistress. Am I going to die soon? In the room, Su Yu is lying on her stomach on the bed. Her clothes are all gone and her voice is weak. She was seriously injured. On the way back, she had already lost consciousness several times. Luo Qingtong underestimated the power of that raging flame chop. In the end, it was the full-strength attack of a martial king. Su Yu didn't completely avoid it. That attack not only burned her back, it also penetrated into her body, almost merging all the meridians on her back. If it was someone else, they would have died long ago. Luo Qingtong sealed all the major meridians in Su Yu's body, allowing her to hold on until now. But even so, this is already the limit. It won't happen. With me here, you won't die. A bloody light flashes in Luo Qingtong's eyes. She stares at Su Yu's back without blinking. Her hands are flying, almost forming an afterimage in the air. She has already removed her disguise, revealing her beautiful face. Her body is like jade and her eyes are like blood. She looks like a bewitching monster that bewitches people's hearts, captivating and moving people's souls. Yes, I believe in Mistress. Su Yu slightly closes her eyes. She believes in Mistress. If Mistress says she can live, then she will definitely live. Endure, Su Yu, I'm going to do it. At that time, even if you seal your 5 senses, you will still feel pain. This pain will make you wish you were dead. But you must endure it. You can't faint. Otherwise, all our previous efforts will be wasted. After spending less than an hour to seal all the blood vessels in Su Yu's body, Luo Qingtong looks at the girl lying on the bed and says word by word. Endure it and you will be reborn. You will have a boundless sea and sky. You can do anything you want. I can't endure it. Only death awaits you. Mistress, do it. Su Yu closes her eyes tightly. She must endure it. Good. A bloody light flashes in Luo Qingtong's eyes. She directly begins to peel off the dead skin and flesh on her back. He peels off the meridians that have already melted together. She connects the meridians that have already melted to the point that their shape can't be seen. She restored them to their original appearance, and even more open and unobstructed than before. This disaster may not be a disaster for Su Yu. Her meridians had been fused into one. If it was anyone else, even if they managed to save her, they would be a cripple. From now on, she can't use her strength. Even if she has the strength of a martial lord. But Luo Qingtong is different. Su Yu's meridians were all destroyed, so she simply reshaped her meridians with a wider meridians. The smoothness of a martial artist's meridians was directly related to their strength. Luo Qingtong takes this opportunity to completely reconstruct Su Yu's meridians. Those meridians that Su Yu didn't open when she was cultivating under Luo Qingtong's inner vision, are all opened by the strength of her strength. Open up the meridians and obtain a new life. As long as Su Yu survives this, her future is limitless. Ah! As soon as Luo Qingtong makes a move, Su Yu can't help but scream. Her beautiful and resolute face was filled with pain at this moment. However, even if she bites her lips and breaks her fingernails, she still resolutely maintains her consciousness. She bears the pain that can be said to be tearing her soul. She will definitely survive. She still has the blood feud of the Su family to bear. She can't die. Ah. Chapter 165. You're saying that everyone in the Qing family was killed in one blow and Elder Lu, a martial king, was killed by his own unique skill? And it was a one-hit kill? His eyes were filled with surprise. Yes. We've investigated back and forth and it's indeed so. And the person who did it is extremely powerful and has extraordinary abilities. The power of the move that killed Elder Lu was perfect. It can't be used unless it's cultivated to the full mastery realm. I estimate that the person who did it is at least a martial emperor. A martial emperor's strength has been cultivated to the point of returning to one's original state. It's extremely easy to imitate the skill below. And it's perfect power when it's used. Other than that, there's no other reason to explain Elder Lu's death. After all, although the raging flame slash was not rare, the probability of the other party knowing it and being able to use it perfectly was too small. The biggest possibility is that there's a martial emperor behind the evil doctor. Or maybe he's the martial emperor himself. However, these people in Blackfield City didn't know that this was an illusion created by Luo Qingtong with the help of her eye technique and Yi Qianxian's power. It had nothing to do with a martial emperor. A martial emperor? The Blackfield City governor listened without saying a word. If that's the case, he'll have to rope in the evil doctor. After all, such a strong person can already build an empire. The Blackfield City governor of Eastern Fence Country is just a city in a low-level country. His strength is only at the martial emperor realm. If he could befriend a martial emperor-level powerhouse, it would be 100 advantages and no disadvantages. But when he thought of the tangled relationship between his lord and the evil doctor, he didn't know whether it was a good or bad relationship. The Blackfield City governor felt a headache coming on. Forget it, let's wait and see. No matter how powerful the evil doctor is, he can't be compared to my wise and powerful lord. If he accidentally stands on the wrong side and cozies up to the wrong person, it'll be no joke. Sigh. My lord, there are so many men and women who admire you in this world. Why do you like the evil doctor? The city lord of the Blackfield subcity thought, and the corner of his eyes twitched. He had been in charge of the Blackfield City of Eastern Fence Nation for so many years. But this was the first time he realized that his lord's preferences were so different. That's enough. He waved his hand. This matter ends here. Send this information to the lord after you've sorted it out. Keep an eye on the evil doctor. Don't let him be dissatisfied with our Blackfield branch city. Also, keep a close eye on the Qing family. Don't let them have the chance to cause trouble for the evil doctor. There can't be a next time when the evil doctor's manor was attacked in the Blackfield City. Yes. Everyone agreed in unison. At this moment, a servant hurriedly walked in from outside. City Lord, this is the application from the Bloody Arena. Apply. What application? The Blackfield City Lord raised his hand and took the letter in his hand. After reading it, the corner of his mouth suddenly twitched. It was the Bloody Arena who felt the Qing family's attack on Luo Qingtong's manor, and hurriedly applied for a silver order for her. This way they could openly send people to protect Luo Qingtong's manor. However, the Blackfield City Lord still couldn't figure out the Lord's attitude toward the evil doctor. How dare he casually give her a Blackfield order? What if the Lord was unhappy? The Blackfield City Lord thought about it and finally decided to report it to the Lord and let him decide. Chapter 166. Elder Yu, quick. Master is in trouble. Blackfield, Deep Venerable Palace. Bei Qing and Feng Yu hurriedly brought Yi Qianxian back. Yi Qianxian was still in a coma. The two placed him in the back of the palace. Feng Yu stayed behind to guard him while Bei Qing rushed directly to the medicine hall. He was looking for Elder Yu. He was brought back by Yi Qianxian when he went out. He was in charge of the medicine hall. No one knew how high Elder Yu's alchemist level was. They only knew that he was the only one who could see some clues about Master's injury that made all the alchemists in the True Spill continent helpless. The panacea that Yi Qianxian usually soaked in when his injury flared up was also made by him. In the entire True Spill continent, only he could slightly alleviate Yi Qianxian's injury. Elder Yu, come with me. Bei Qing hurried all the way to the medicine hall. She didn't care what Elder Yu was doing. She pulled him along and ran. Yi Qianxian's injury flared up fiercely this time. Only the heavens knew how they felt when they rushed in and saw the pool in the bath hall dyed red. Their hearts were about to stop from fright. With master's status, nothing could happen to him. Hey, wait. You stinking brat. Wait a minute. I haven't taken the medicine yet. Elder Yu was in the medicine hall sorting out the herbs that he needed to remix Xianxia's medicine. Suddenly being pulled by Bei Qing, the herbs in his hands almost fell to the ground. How could Bei Qing wait? He waved his hand and with a schwa sound, everything in Elder Yu's room was swept clean. Simmer space. The most rare and precious simmer space in the true spill continent. It was a storage magic treasure. Seeing Bei Qing take everything in the room with a wave of his hand, who knew how big the space in his simmer space ring was? It had to be known that in the true spill continent, a storage magic treasure with a square meter of space was enough to make people go crazy. But Bei Qing's storage space was probably no less than a few hundred square meters. Okay, I've taken everything. Elder Yu, let's go. I'll get you whatever you want later. As he spoke, he pulled Elder Yu and ran without any explanation. The old man glared at him with his old eyes, and only remembered to curse after he was dragged along for some distance. F*CKU, you little bastard. You should have at least left a bed for me. And my chamber pot. Why are you keeping it too? Mingzun Palace sleeping quarters. On the spacious and luxurious bed, a godlike man lay on a milky white jade pillow with his eyes closed. That indescribably handsome face, even though he was unconscious, could not hide the elegance, majesty and magnificence. Elder Yu, how is it? Is master all right? Beside the bed, Bei Qing paced back and forth with an anxious look on his face. Enough. You're so annoying. I've only just started taking your pulse. You're asking me if I'm okay. Do you think I'm a deity? Get out of my way. Elder Yu was annoyed by his questions. He lifted his leg and kicked him to the side. She hadn't even settled the score with him for taking away all the things in her room. Now he was being stupid again. Elder Yu was fuming with anger. He wanted to scold him again, but suddenly his face turned cold. This pulse. Ignoring Bei Qing, the stupid dog, he hurriedly checked Xianxia's pulse. Chapter 167. Nope. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were both stunned when they heard Elder Yu's question. They found that their master's injuries flared up and he fainted in the bath hall, so they immediately brought him back. How could there be other pharmacists who helped their master? Besides, other pharmacists couldn't treat their master's injuries. Both of them shook their heads, but Elder Yu stroked his beard and felt strange. That's strange. Your master's pulse is stable and his main meridians are slowly recovering. The condition of his injuries flared up as much better than before. Someone must have treated his injuries. And that person's alchemy skills are above mine. As he spoke, he looked at Bei Qing and Feng Yu, his beard puffed up and his eyes widened. There's such a pharmacist and you deliberately hid it from me. Why, are you afraid that I'll be jealous and harm him? Since you don't believe me, I'll leave. As he spoke, he was about to leave but was pulled back by Feng Yu. Wait, Elder Yu, can you make it clear? You're saying that my master is fine now and someone has already treated his injuries? He asked. Yes. I don't know why, but she only treated half of it. If not, your master would have woken up long ago. He's unconscious now not because of something but because his main meridians are self-healing. Elder Yu said, that's why I said that person is better than me. At least I can't make your master's main meridians self-heal. He pointed at Xianxia and said, your master's main meridians have strengthened again. If this goes on, his life won't be in danger in the future. Enough. I've said what I need to say. Since you're so guarded against me, this old man isn't someone who doesn't know what's good for him. I'll leave now. Elder Yu was also stubborn. His medical skills were profound and his alchemy skills were incomparable. Many people wanted to ask him for help but couldn't. If Xianxia's injuries hadn't piqued his curiosity, he wouldn't have appeared here. In the end, they were so guarded against him. Even if they found a cure, they wouldn't tell him. Fine. In that case, he'll leave by himself. I won't send you off. Wait. Elder Yu. Seeing that he was about to leave, Feng Yu hurriedly pulled him back. We swear that before you, we really didn't invite any alchemist to treat master's injuries. I swear by the world and my soul. As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed his sword at the sky. There was no movement in the sky, which meant that Feng Yu was not lying. Elder Yu put down his foot again. Really? I really didn't. Feng Yu's face was resolute. At this moment, Bei Qing also came to her senses and said hurriedly, Elder Yu, I really didn't. Otherwise, why would I be so anxious? That was true. Bei Qing was so stubborn that she didn't look like a liar. Elder Yu thought for a moment and sat back down. Then before your master fainted, did anyone go in? In addition, did something similar happen to him before? Is it because the injury suddenly healed? Elder Yu wondered if Yi Qianren had done something by accident that inexplicably improved his condition. When he said that, Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked at each other and thought of the same thing at the same time. Yes. Elder Yu, something similar happened to Master before. Happened on Nine Magi Mountain. Master said that it was a young girl who cured him. Yes. Chapter 168. Nine Magi Mountain? Is that the Nine Magi Mountain that caused a huge uproar in Dongli country? Wilao asked in surprise. Your master went there? Yes. Feng Yu nodded. Master received news that there was a relic there that might have a way to treat his injuries, so he went there alone. After that, Master's injuries acted up. By the time we arrived, Master was already fine. According to Master, it was a blind girl who saved him. Feng Yu explained the situation at that time, including the changes in Yi Qianxian's meridians. Because we weren't sure what the changes were, and because we were looking for that girl, we didn't have time to tell you about this. Feng Yu said. I see. Yuelao nodded. So that's it. No wonder Yi Qianxian's meridians looked like they were about to explode because of the medicinal power. He knew that this kid's meridians were already so weak that they needed to be nurtured at all times to maintain normal conditions. How dare he do such a suicidal thing? So it was because he wanted to confirm the changes in his injuries. But the person who saved him was a young girl? And a blind one at that? Yuelao was in disbelief. If he said that his alchemy skills were second, no one in the world would dare to say that they were the best. But even so, he had been by Yi Qianxian's side for so many years, but he had not been able to treat his injuries at all. At most, he could only delay the pain when his injuries acted up. He could only help him endure this period of time. But now, a young girl, and a blind girl at that, had done something that even he could not do? Is your master sure that it was a young girl? Is he sure that she was young? What was her cultivation level? When he asked this question, Feng Yu and Bei Qing's expressions became strange. She was indeed a young girl. They nodded. And her strength. According to Master, she was a martial master. But Master was unable to keep her. As they spoke, they hid the fact that when they found Yi Qianxian, the latter had a bite mark on his lips. Master was seduced by the other party's beauty, so he played with her. As he played, he let her go. That must not be said. It was too damaging to Master's wise and mighty image. Before they could finish, Yuelao could not help but spit out a mouthful of water. Are you two kidding me? Martial master? How could she escape from your master? Do you know how powerful your master is? He glared at the two of them. How could they make such a joke? Were they looking down on his IQ? The corners of Bei and Feng Yu's lips twitched. What they said was true. Although it did sound like a joke. Elder Yu, it's true. We haven't found him yet, Feng Yu said. At this moment, Yuelao suddenly shouted. Wait, you said that Yi Qianxian has not been found? Then what happened to your master's injuries? He pointed at Yi Qianxian, who was lying on the bed. Could it be that this was treated by a ghost? Before Bei Qing and Feng Yu could speak, a cold and deep voice suddenly rang out in the bedroom. It was treated by a ghost. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. No one knew when he had woken up. He closed his eyes slightly and gnashed his teeth in anger. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.